California's temporary tax hikes expire in 14 days.
2 weeks.
East and Southern California, this is a John and Ken political world now.
The show is quite amusing. Just because the talk show guy wants to hold your head on a stick, they feel that their heads will be on a stick.
This is John and Ken's Tax Revolt 2011.
It's the John and Ken Show. John Cobelt and Ken Shampoo. Tax Revolt 2011. Heads on a stick. 14 days until the sales tax and the car tax expires. The income tax already expired. And that this horrible 2 years and the $22 billion they stole from us will have come to an end.
You know, governments are broke everywhere, but I have a small story to report that L.A. County has a little less of a fiscal problem. Hard to believe, but somebody in the state of Washington sent a $10,000 cashier's check to L.A. County and wrote, "In this time of economic difficulties, governments need all the help they can get. Please put this anonymous check to good use. God bless you."
Well, that's about as crazy as that lady who spent $7,000 on the Mexican women down in Oceanside.
Well, it's going to go into the county's general fund, which means the Board of Supervisors will probably just dip into it as part of their discretionary money.
It just goes into the black hole, that's all.
I don't know who this person is, but how crazy is that?
That's really stupid.
I mean, seriously,
don't.
There's a billion charities you could give to. It's better than getting it into the black hole of government spending.
Yeah, it's not going to help.
You're going to leave money to anybody. Don't give it to these hacks.
It's not going to. You're not helping anybody. You know, go give it to your church if you know the church really has a program that helps the poor or the elderly. You know, like there's a direct program that you. But don't just mindlessly. There's a lot of idiots.
Somebody from Washington too. All right, now. Let's talk about the latest developments. As you know, yesterday, Jerry Brown, to much fanfare and gasping, clutching of the pearls, vetoed that phony Democratic budget. Now, we believe more and more that all of this has been orchestrated. Once Prop 25 passed, it's no surprise that for the first time in 25 years, they got a budget passed by June 15th.
Look.
Well, first of all, that proposition reduced it to a simple majority vote. And what was supposed to go with it was that they were not going to be paid unless they had a budget presented to Brown. So they just made sure they did that.
What you had is the Democratic whores. They started squealing yesterday because their union masters were whipping their butts, saying, let's get so they're really angry and frustrated. The union goons and the Democratic legislators. I mean, they're just furious. They really are furious at Jerry Brown because Jerry Brown said no taxes without voter approval. And they can't stand this. They hate this. And there's precedent. Jerry Brown pissed off his Democratic legislators frequently back in the 1970s. Whatever you think about him, he has a bit of a contrarian streak. He doesn't really want to belong to anybody's club. And he does like to take a little needle once in a while.
He likes to tweak people.
Yeah. So he's been adamant. Mostly, a couple of days he's wavered, but mostly he's been adamant that he's going to have the voters pass this tax referendum.
And they were okay with that until over the last few months the polls show the voters will pummel the tax increases, and the unions are like, oh, we're going to spend $60 million and lose a vote? It's easier to bribe a couple of legislators. You can find those Republicans, round them up.
You know what?
That's why they had that long-term plan, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, to try to get moderate Republicans into Sacramento so they raise taxes.
You know, recently I saw two plays recently, which reminded me what the mafia is like when you owe them money. You know, when you have a gambling debt and you owe some guy $20,000. And he comes in, the Four Seasons play was that Jersey Boys.
Oh, that show, yeah.
Yeah, one of the Four Seasons guys had a huge gambling debt, and one day the guy comes in and he wants the money. And then there's a great play I just saw the other night, paid for the tickets. Superior Donuts at the Geffen Playhouse. That was the anniversary play. Same thing. There's a scene in there where a guy owes $22,000 gambling debts. And they come in, and the guy says, I got nothing. You know, I'm making, $8 an hour here. I got nothing. And they just stand there and they stare. It's like, well, we need the $22,000. And when you don't pay the $22,000, really horrible things happen. Really nasty things happen. And that's what you have with the unions running this place. They are on the Democratic legislators saying, we want our money. We want our $55 billion in taxes. And Perez and Steinberg are holding up their hands and saying, what do you want us to do, Jerry Brown? Republicans? The polls? We want our money. We want our money. Making myself clear, we want our money. And so that's the call that Steinberg and Perez get every day. We want our money.
No, Steinberg and Perez are like, Jerry Brown said he could round up these Republicans. He ain't doing it.
They don't want to have
Perez is
excuses.
like, I got to eat, so we got to get a budget passed. So
I'm hungry.
Let's pass this phony budget, which was loaded with gimmicks and illegal maneuvers, but to get out the door by June 15th so we get paid on June 30th. Well, Jerry Brown did his part by vetoing the budget the next day. Now all eyes are on John Chung, the controller, who was talking tough the other day because there were ruminations that they did what they had to do to comply with Prop 15. They presented the governor with a budget. Oh, then there was talk of, no, it can't be a budget full of gimmicks. It can't be, you'd be getting
Can't
around.
be illegal taxes.
Right, so Chung acted tough, and now suddenly today, not so tough.
Yeah.
He's saying things like, you know what? Normally what happens when they present a budget to the governor, the Legislative Analyst's Office takes a look at it to determine whether or not it's full of gimmicks. Well, they didn't do that because Brown quickly vetoed it. And according to my interpretation of my job duties, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm just going to look at it and decide whether or not it's, quote, balanced, revenues equals expenditures, and I'll just say, fine, they comply.
Well,
I think that's what he's going to do.
John Chung got the phone call from the union goon.
Just move this forward.
We want our money. Yeah,
Well, what do they have to do with him?
Because the union guys, they're the ones who came up with Prop 25. They're the ones who came up with the mechanism. Remember, there's two parts to Prop 25. What was sold to the public is, hey, they don't pass the budget, you dock their salary. Do you think the unions really want to dock the salary of the Democratic legislators? Of course not. The real purpose behind Prop 25 was to reduce that two-thirds majorities and cut the Republicans out of the debate.
But not for taxes. That's been the sticking point. Thanks to Prop 13.
What they want the budget to pass, and they want these taxes implemented, you see, because for a while, people will have to pay the taxes. They'll have to pay the extra sales tax and the car tax, the Amazon tax. That money's going to come in. So what they want is everybody to be on the same page, everyone covering each other's back, everybody supporting it, right? They want their Democratic legislators to get paid. They want those guys to be happy. They don't want to lose, because if the Democratic legislators then aren't getting paid for a while, then you start getting the hint of chaos in the air. Maybe you start getting Democratic defections to some other plan that's not as favorable to the unions. The unions have to make sure the Democratic legislators get paid. And now they hear that John Chung is threatening not to pay. Well, that adds another layer of uncertainty that they don't want to deal with. So Chung gets the call from the nasty guy on the phone. It's like, Chung, you're going to pay these guys, right? Well, how much did we pay for your campaign? And what are you running for in 2 years or in 4? You want to be Governor Chung? You're not going to F with us, are you, Mr. Chung? So he got the call, and it's like, he's got his diaper on, and he's saying, well, I'm going to look at this, and if the numbers add up, I guess I will approve the check.
That's why we put up an action alert on the website, because it looks like Chung is going to fold, and at least the short-term battle here is to make sure these hacks aren't paid. Now, we told you not to vote for Prop 25, because we knew it was a sham, and sure enough, we said all last fall that they're going to pass along a phony budget to get paid. That's what they did. But we think Chung, who John's right, if he does want to run for another statewide office like governor, ought to stand up and show the cojones that he is going to block this, make sure they don't get paid.
So we have his phone number on the website here. Let me scroll. Here it is. You call Chung up and tell him not to pay the Democratic